and welcome to Epiphytic Cacti. In the intro video, I had noted that there would be experiments that I would be running on this channel. This is my first experiment. What I have here are 15 seedlings. They're individual single seedlings. I actually just went through and called out ones that had more than one seedling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test 4 different fertilizers against each other and just see what happens. I'm going to have a control here. The reason why we're going to have a control is just to make sure that there's not maybe they grow just as well without fertilizer. But we're going to find that out. So we have our control here. There are 3 pots. I tried to get seedlings that were all around the same size. I tried to get seedlings that were all from the same cross. I was mostly successful, but not entirely. So there are a few random little seedlings floating around in there, but they all seem to have a pretty close growth rate. We've got our control group. They're not going to get any food. And then we've got AFF here, which is my least favorite thing in the whole entire world because of the smell. I think it's amazing fertilizer. I think it smells really bad. So AFF is going to be our Alaska Fish Fertilizer. And then we've got MSU. MSU is actually the fertilizer that I use for pretty much everything. I grow orchids. I use it for my orchids. It's exceptional for orchids. I have Hoya everywhere. I use it for all of those. I use it for every single epiphytic cacti I have. I generally feed them a little bit strangely, and maybe someday we'll talk about that. But this is the fertilizer that I use for pretty much everything. It is specifically MSU RO Tap Rainwater Special. And the NPK on this is 13,315. There's research on this if you want to Google it. The NPK for the fish fertilizer is 511. And generally you would think if you're feeding them all and then the nitrogen is higher, they're going to grow better. We're going to find that out. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. We'll see. So then we've got this Gen. I am just calling this generic fertilizer. This is just your run-of-the-mill, completely balanced fertilizer. A lot of people use a balanced fertilizer on Epiphyllum. And it seems as though they've been having really good results because they keep using it. And most of the time, those things, when you get those recommendations kind of across the board, it usually came from grower experience. So there's usually something to it. But we're going to test that out. And then the last thing that we're going to do, this one's going to be a little bit difficult. We are going with Osmocote. So this is the smart release fertilizer. And the NPK on this is 15,912. So what I have in front of me is actually just water straight out of the tap. And then I have this TDS meter. And this will actually measure the parts per million in the water. So basically how much solids are actually in that water, how much nutrients is in this water. Through the winter and everything, these seedlings were actually getting generally around 200 ppm every 2 weeks or so. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try 300 ppm and see what happens. Basically, you'd have to do this very, very, very slowly because you don't want to go over and you don't want to have to start over. And it's just really important that this be completely accurate every time. Otherwise, the results are just not accurate. So putting back in there, I'm at 150 ppm. And it's really important that when you put the food in, let's see, can I adjust this? There we go. It's really important that when you put the fertilizer in, that you really stir it. Oh, we're very close. We're now at about 280 ppm. So we just need a drop more. Well, looks like we got 2 drops more. All right, so there we go. We're right around 300. So then what will end up happening is that we will go through. I'm going to use, basically I'm going to use some kind of a contraption here. I think I'm going to use this little ladle. And so this is the generic fertilizer. So using the ladle, it's going to come in here and I'm basically going to give him like a ladle, might be like a ladle and a half, but every single time, every single one of these is going to be getting the exact same amount of water. We might actually end up going with like 2 units to run through. I'm laughing because I'm laughing on the inside really because I'm about to get like water all over my counter. I think I've cleaned my counter like 8 times today because I keep making messes. All right, so basically we're gonna do it like that, and then you'd clean all this stuff off. All right, so now we've got some new fresh water. Gonna check the ppm on that. We're right around 80. It's always gonna be the same because we're always gonna be using the same water. I just like to check because I'm really weird. Let's go ahead and do this with the repot me. So with the repot me again, we're just trying to get this basically to 300. And this is really granule fertilizer, so like can be a little bit different. It takes like a second to really kind of dissolve it. So you definitely want to kind of let it hang out there a little bit. Let's check it. All right, so there we go. We are right around 300. Really good. We're going to go to the MSU, and each one of these is going to get 2 ladles. Ladle. Your ladle. Ladle. Let's go with my least favorite, because you know, I'm actually a little bit curious about the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. I think this stuff is just so gnarly, but I'm curious to see like what it's actually going to take, you know, to kind of get it to 300 ppm with the Alaska Fish Fertilizer. I'm about to make my whole house smell just god awful. So bad, guys. It's not even out of the bottle yet, and I'm already like, ah. All right, so here we go. Oh, I feel like it's thick. It's like congealed. All right, well, that makes this a little bit easier. There we got some congealedness on there. I even think it looks gross. Not only does it smell gross, I mean, considering what it is, yes, it's gross. And I know I'm being a huge baby about that, but honestly, the smell, it's just the smell. All right, let's check that. Huh, that's interesting. So we're at 160 ppm. You know, when I actually use this stuff outside, because I do like to use this stuff outside in the summer, as long as I don't have to be anywhere near the vicinity of my plants that day. It's interesting because I just basically dump so much of this into their water. But the plants, I mean, they really like this stuff. It's kind of interesting. There we go. Yep, we're right around 300. Put that cover back on and run away. That was really interesting because I barely used any of that. And considering that when I'm outside and I actually feed them this stuff, I don't really measure. So I just dump some in the water. And I must have been giving them quite the shot of fertilizer. So that's a little interesting. So here we go. The Alaska Fish Fertilizer. Can't believe I'm doing this in my house. Can't believe I'm doing this in my house. All right. Ugh. It's actually not even that bad. I can't even really smell it. Exactly 2 ladles full. There we go. All right, we gotta go rinse all this stuff off. I think for the last one, we're basically just gonna take about this much of the Osmocote And then we're going to sprinkle the Osmocote into each one of these little Osmocote pots here. That might be a lot, but I mean, we'll find out, I guess. And, you know, the Osmocote will water with the rest of them. We just won't really do much else to it. There we go. Seems like a lot of Osmocote, but we'll see how that goes. I would have thought that would have released a little bit better, but it really doesn't seem to do anything. I don't know how long that would have to sit in there to do anything, so that's just how we're going to roll with that. We're basically, same thing, we're going to give him the same kind of ladles full of water. You know, and obviously this is going to be a very, very, very long experiment because these do not grow very quickly, but it'll still be interesting to see, you know, like after the summer is over, I mean, how much impact these fertilizers have actually had, to get kind of a gauge. And maybe I'll try to run like a different experiment at some point where I test the different ppms to see like how far we can get. But that's basically going to be the first experiment. So I hope you hang out and keep watching and see what happens with these guys. I need to go clean my counter again. So thanks for watching and happy cacti growing.